Hi, I'm Amanda Morgan, and this is Not Just Cute, the podcast, where we discuss all kinds of topics relating to intentional whole child development and supporting the critical work of parents and teachers of young children. This episode was inspired by a real-life conversation with a friend of mine who was venting about not handling a parenting situation the way she wished she would have, the way she knew she should have, but the morning was just too much, and she snapped. She didn't handle the challenge the way she wished she had, and the whole thing left her and her child feeling horrible. So now what? Sound familiar? I think we've all been there. So today we're going to talk about why these meltdown moments won't ruin your kids, and what the science of attachment tells us about how we can actually respond to them in a way that makes our relationships stronger. You can find show notes for this episode at notjustcute.com/podcast/episode 21. Before we begin, this episode is sponsored by my course, Letting Go of Perfect, the art and science of being an awesome mom without losing your mind. I am so excited about this course because it's a really personal project for me, taking my own experiences with letting go of perfection and combining it with my professional experience working with parents and teachers to promote healthy whole child development. The truth is, I'm seeing so many parents, moms especially, wrestling with guilt and worry and perfection, and it's not only unnecessary, but it's stealing the joy from motherhood. So I developed this 7-module e-course to walk moms through why and how to let go of perfection, pressure, criticism, guilt, worry, and all those shoulds we hold on to, so that we can free up our hearts and our hands to hold on to what really matters. More joy, more connection, more clarity and contentment. It's organized in convenient podcast-style audio sessions so you can fit them into your day seamlessly. Because I know, at least for me, I am much more likely to find the time if I can do it while I'm making dinner or coming back from the school carpool or some other little pocket of time where I can multitask. Along with the audio, there are written transcripts for those who prefer to read and highlight, and there's a workbook to take you step by step through the exercises and challenges, these necessary action steps that walk you through the process of letting go. It's truly a project that's near and dear to my heart, one of my favorites to create. It's only open a few times a year, and one of those times is right now. So I hope you'll hop on over and grab your spot today. I would love to see you in our next session of Letting Go of Perfect, the art and science of being an awesome mom without losing your mind. Find more information in today's show notes or go directly to courses.notjustcute.com/letting go of perfect. And I realized I didn't optimize that for podcast format, so there are actually hyphens between each word in letting go of perfect. But I guess that's fitting for such a course, right? I'd love to see you in our next session. Now, this concept of letting go of the destructive aspects of perfectionism and focusing on the real demands of healthy whole child development is a big part of today's podcast. So let's jump in. So my friend messaged me recently to vent about the awful start to her day, and I think it's one that every parent can relate to. I know I can. You start with the best of intentions, but a child wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, the entire pitcher of orange juice gets spilled all over the table, maybe the shoes you asked your child to get 10 minutes ago are still nowhere to be found, or you have kiddos that are just meeting the morning routine with absolute defiance. And maybe it's all of it. Whatever the combination, the morning just seems to disintegrate in our hands. And the harder we try to get a hold of it, our grasp just seems to pulverize everything. We get challenges from the kids, our buttons get pushed, we decide that we can beat them at their own game because clearly, at least in my case, they inherited this stubborn streak genetically. So we challenge them to a battle of the wills, complete meltdowns ensue. Sometimes they're from the kids, sometimes they're from us. We say or we do things that we later wish we hadn't. And even if we manage to resolve things and get everyone where they're supposed to be, we are left feeling terrible. We've got that familiar sinking feeling in our gut. And we start thinking about everything we know we should have done. And then all the well-intended research about parenting and relationships starts to flood into our minds. And we quickly decide that we have caused irrevocable harm and we've likely ruined our children forever. Have you found yourself in a similar situation? If you haven't yet, you likely will. So, what do we do? Here is something I want you to remember. Human relationships are designed for repair. Let me say that again. Human relationships are designed for repair. We don't have strong relationships because we never make mistakes. Strong relationships are forged when we show that we care enough to stick around and do the hard work of making things right. Dr. Ed Tronick, a developmental psychologist at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, he specializes in infant caregiver connection. Tronick and his colleagues have pushed against the idea that parents and children are perfectly attuned in a synchronized dance. Rather, he asserts that quote-unquote good parents are actually only perfectly in sync with their children 20 to 30% of the time. That means that even these good parents are off their game up to 80% of the time. According to him, it isn't the perfect attunement that builds attachment. It's the effort that we put into trying to get back in sync. It's the inherent and unavoidable imperfection, the messiness, as he calls it, that contributes to healthy development. The danger isn't in making the mistakes. The danger is in pretending we never make them, ignoring them and never repairing them. That's where the damage can occur. Think of it this way. When you exercise and work a muscle, you actually create little tiny tears in your muscle tissue. And the natural process of that muscle being repaired is what builds bigger, stronger muscle fiber. That's how we build strength. But after we do that hardcore workout and we have all those little tears and that lactic acid buildup, we don't feel so great, right? Everything hurts, even in places we didn't realize we had muscles before. And we don't even want to move because we just feel terrible. And it's tempting in that moment to avoid those next workouts because it hurts. We'd rather simply ignore that pain by not moving. And we can, and eventually it will go away. But we won't be any stronger for it if we don't engage in active repair. We have to push through that uncomfortable, painful feeling and keep doing the work. That's how muscle is built. And that's also how relationships are built. We're going to mess up. We are. But we're designed for it. Just like a muscle, our relationships get stronger when we repair all those little tears. But just like a muscle, if we don't engage in active repair and we just try to remain idle and ignore that pain, push those hurts aside instead of working through them, we won't get any stronger for them. So what does active repair look like in a relationship? Well, just like with a workout, you may need a little recovery period before you jump back in. You might need some space, some rest, some regrouping. And then you face it. You acknowledge it. You apologize. You can be very candid with your kids and say, this morning was rough for you, for me, for all of us. I'm so sorry that it was like that. Let's make tonight better. You work on building connection. You spend some extra time at bedtime, or you go grab some ice cream or take a walk. Or as another one of my friends recently did, you check your teenager out of school a little early and you go grab some tacos. You acknowledge the struggle and you reinforce the connection with positive interactions. That's the ongoing process of repair that says, I care enough to stick it out and to do the work, even when it hurts. I'm still right here and I will always love you, no matter what. And just like when we work through the pain of that sore muscle, when we keep showing up and doing the work of acknowledging mistakes and making repairs and building positive connections, we'll find that we become stronger than we ever would have been if we had simply ignored that awful discomfort, that sore muscle, and if we just waited for it to go away. And we'll be stronger than we would have been if we had never had that tear to repair in the first place. And the good news is we don't even have to try to make those mistakes. We just will, because we're human and our kids are human. We'll all make mistakes and it will feel terrible. But we are designed for the work of repair. We are made stronger physically and in our relationships by the work of repair. So no matter how awful your morning may have been, there is an opportunity for growth if you'll push through that terrible feeling and engage in the work of active repair. You've got this. Thanks again for listening to Not Just Cute, the podcast. You can find show notes at notjustcute.com/podcast/episode 21. While you're there, be sure to click the link to register for Letting Go of Perfect, the art and science of being an awesome mom without losing your mind. This topic of repair, along with other topics like letting go of guilt, worry, pressure, and criticism, so that you can actually enjoy motherhood, are all addressed in Letting Go of Perfect. I hear from lots of overwhelmed moms who feel like they just can't do it all. They just can't measure up. They just can't get everything right. This course helps moms let go of all those pressures that really honestly don't matter so that they can give their kids what they really need: a happy, healthy, awesome mom. Register by heading to the link in the show notes or go directly to my very imperfect link at courses.notjustcute.com/letting go of perfect with hyphens between each of the words and letting go of perfect. I know, I told you, it was an imperfect link. I would love to see you there. I'm Amanda Morgan. You can read more on my blog and sign up for the Not Just Cute newsletter at notjustcute.com and follow me on Facebook. That's facebook.com/notjustcute. Thanks for listening today, and thank you for standing up for children and for childhood.